What's going on, guys, and welcome back to part 2 of every unreleased card coming to Marvel Snap. Now, it's no secret that Marvel has a metric load of characters and vehicles that Snap can pull from, pretty much endless options. We're talking billions. Now, let me tell you, some of these are freaking insane. I've never been more excited genuinely to go through the comment section and what you guys have to say. We're going to go through all the data mine cards that have been confirmed, but, obviously they're subject to change. If you don't like spoilers, you're probably on the wrong video, and if you want to see part 1, you can check up above. Let's dive in. First up on our list is Macquarie. Now, this is a 0-2 cost, and it's pretty much a better M'Baku if you look at it that way. When you draw this, place it at a random location. So right off the bat, Cerebro 2 is going to be its home, most likely. There's some cons to the card if you have something like Bar with no name. But it seems like a fun concept. We'll see if it changes. Next up is Master Mold. On reveal, add 3 Sentinel to your opponent's hand. And this feels like a supercharged Black Widow. Like, man, your hand draw is screwed. There's a couple of decks that this is going to help. Obviously, like, Devil Dinosaur or whatnot. But for the most part, if you're looking for combo cards or like a Galactus deck, like, this is going to suck. And I also think it's got some pretty insane Darkhawk synergy as well. Because you can force your opponent not to draw new cards. If they didn't play anything by like turn 3, like, they're done. Now, this card might be the most exciting we'll talk about today. Mephisto. If you win this game, double your winnings. And it's a 6-cost 0-power card. Now, like, obviously, Mr. Negative is going to love this card. Combine that with Jane Foster. I mean, that's just insane. But to have a card that can double your winnings, give you 16 cubes off of 1 win, seems crazy to me. Like Moon Girl, or if you have an Arnim Zola and you double that, does it double the double? Now, I don't know. I think that works mainly with like ongoing and on reveal cards, but either way, I'm here for it, and I think it's going to get a good amount of play, if I'm being honest. You could also just cheat them on the board with something like Wave to get a guaranteed 2-cube win, or you snap early and then you get a 4-cube win no matter what, with a possibility of 16 cubes. Mephisto is going to just blow up this game in the craziest best way possible. Next is Mirage. As you play this, disguise it as Mr. Fantastic. After the final turn, reveal it to be a 4-cost 5-power card. Now, this is what I'm here for. I love mind game cards, and this is kind of like a Mysterio card in a sense, which I think are going to be very common in competitive friendly battles. Cards that you can play, it doesn't matter how many games in a row, because you're screwing with the opponent's mind. Now, Mr. Fantastic is such an interesting card to disguise yourself as, and honestly, I think I'll play the hell out of this one, because Marvel Snap does have like a lot of head games involved, and I think that this card is going to be a perfect addition to pretty much any deck, depending how you play it. But then on like the flip side, like a 4-5 isn't too crazy. You're only getting 2 extra power on the lane that you play. But again, that's a massive difference for miscalculation, and Mr. Fantastic is pretty commonly played. Now, next up is the card that is next month's Season Pass, and get ready, guys, because on reveal, discard your hand with MODOK, who is a 5-cost, 8-power card. Now, I've said that this card is about to go to the moon, and I think this is going to be a huge way to help that. Now, Ghost Rider Zabu is already out here to help with the gambling and casino feel of discard decks, but MODOK is going to make Hela rise again, and I think it's going to be pretty solid if you can hide MODOK behind Invisible Woman, like cheat him out early, and then Hela on turn 6. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to shut that down, Cosmo. But if you can pull that off, you're just getting a free, like, Hela Bomb Miracle at the end of the game. Never mind just playing him with like Dracula to guarantee a big apocalypse pull. MODOK's going to have his play, and you can definitely do things like Swarm or Wolverine, these other cards that want to be discarded. I think that we're just seeing the beginning of where this archetype's going to go. And there's some other cards we're going to talk about in combination with MODOK. Just wait. Next up, we got Miss Marvel, who's got an ongoing effect. It's like a super Mr. Fantastic. If this is your only card here, adjacent locations have +5 power, and she's a 3-cost, 4-power card. That is 14 power for 3 energy, and that is no joke. And I think she's kind of perfect. Like, board space is so important right now. I'm going to wonder how she fares into a lot of decks, but she definitely has archetypes that she can slot into, no question. And I think she'll get some decent play. Curious how the stats and the numbers will be adjusted. All right, now this next card is definitely a top 5 for me coming to the game. Nebula is an on-reveal card that if your opponent also played a card at this location, you're going to double her power and put this back into your hand. You've got like the Guardians of the Galaxy playstyle meets something like Deadpool, but you don't need to rely on other cards, just the old noggin and guessing. And there's not a lot of cons of playing her either. Like if you don't guess right, you know, it's not a big deal. I think this card is going to be awesome with very little downside. And if you like Moon Girl or Khazar, you can continue to stack her up. Or hell, if you build her up throughout the whole game, you guess correctly. And then you have Dracula that could just like take her power if she's still in your hand. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful because you have this card that you're building up each and every turn to a pretty good degree. And then turn 6, you don't want to play on the location that your opponent is on because it would go back to your hand, right? So you would put it on a location that they have maxed out. Again, maybe it's just me, but like Vision, any mind game cards I have always loved in Snap. So personally, I'm super stoked for Nebula. Okay, guys, so next up, Negasonic. Get a load of this. When any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. Like a hot damn, this card is going to be combined with things like control decks where you force your opponent to play in certain lanes. This is going to piss off a lot of players and just major disruption, and I love it. Like it's only 3 cost and you can mess up combos, like play it into a Wong lane. Turn 5, you can play it where you know they have to play or want to play, and then you just kill them both, like it doesn't matter. And then at the same time, you can do this to help yourself with destroy decks. Null, this card's sick. I think this one will get a lot of meta play. Now, next up is Nimrod. When this is destroyed, add a copy to each location. It's a 5 cost, 5 power card. So it's like a card that already has the Arnim Zola effect. If you can cheat it out early, it's okay, I guess. But I don't love the cost per power amount. Like my mind jumps to Arnim Zola. Get like the Dr. Doombot thing going on where you just have 5 costs going everywhere. Or, you know, Galactus is going to absolutely love this card. All right, strap up. This was one of the cards I was talking about in the beginning of the video. And with MODOK, we have Night Nurse, who has an on-reveal effect. Add all cards you discarded or destroyed last turn back to your hand. Like, hello, meta staple card. This is going to be insane. Destroy and discard is going to love this freaking card. Now, discard, you know, you got to be a bit careful. You're going to have to pair her up to get rid of the casino feeling of maybe discarding her. But destroy has 0 con here. And you combine this with, like, Galactus, once again, Hela, or just simple discard and destroy decks getting multiple Buckies or Nova combos that you can play multiple times. Night Nurse might be one of the best low-cost cards. MODOK, for example, if you can start cheating cards early, you got MODOK, then Hela, then Night Nurse. I don't even know, guys. Seems crazy. Next up is a card that combines with one we talked about on the last video, Jean Grey. We have Phoenix Force, a 6-cost, 3-power card that's going to revive one of your destroy cards, kind of like Ghost Rider, and they will get an additional +5 power. Now, if that is Jean Grey, it'll be +10 power, which is pretty damn insane. Feels a bit weird to me, like you want to destroy cards, but then you don't know if you can get them back if you don't have Phoenix Force. 6 cost is a lot, so we'll have to see how this card does. I don't see it being too crazy, but I do see playing like a Venom on a high-cost card and then playing Phoenix Force. Now, that's a combo I can get with, but I don't know. The cost seems a little high, but with Jean Grey, it's a no-brainer. On reveal, set this card's power equal to the power of a random card in your deck. It's a 4-cost, 0-power card. Now, I'm liking this. It's like a morph that you can control, and I think that Jubilee decks, Lockjaw, these high-power decks, is going to love it. It's going to add another, like, gambling chip that you can mess with. And for 4 costs, you can combine that with Jubilee and combine them both with Zabu. It's going to have a nice style of play. It could even work in Hela decks. Again, anything with massive amounts of power. Random should be pretty fun. I'm excited for it to come. We move on to Red Guardian, who is an on-reveal card, and its con is you must play your next card wherever you play the Red Guardian. It's a 3-cost, 6-power card. All right, so we've got another card that just has extreme value for that 3 cost that's come to rival Maximus. Although we do have Rescue, who is a 4/9 with the same kind of style in a sense. turn 5 is so much more vital on card placements, so I think Red Guardian might get some play. Now, something you'll see is discard and move are getting a lot of love, and we continue with Silk, who's going to add to move decks. When anyone plays a card here, move this to another location. It's 2 cost, 5 power. Now, instantly, guys, like Miles Morales, Kraven, their new best friend, I think it's going to work pretty well for that. You've got great value at 2 costs and 5 power. And really, the only downside is if your opponent doesn't like where the card's played, they can move it by playing a card there as well. But again, that then forces your opponent to play a card. We've got a lot of S cards here. Silver Sable is next, and you can only play this at a location where you have 6 plus total power. Now, it's an insane stat line of 2 cost, 6 power, and this seems like incredible value. Whether you played on turn 3 to follow up a Iceman Lizard in the same lane, or you can save it for a late game play for Sarah. You can clone it with Moon Girl to get even more value, and this is going to continue to supercharge those Sarah Miracle decks. I expect Silver Sable to probably take over as one of the best 2 costs in the game. It's 6 total power is not hard to achieve. I'd be surprised if they don't bump that up, but we'll see how it goes. We got back-to-back silvers. Next up is Silver Samurai. When this is discarded from your hand, draw another card, and it's a 1 cost, 2 power card. In my opinion, this is a fantastic card. First of all, discard doesn't have a lot of 1 cost drops that can kind of flow with the synergy of it. But then you have another card, again, that you want to go ahead and get rid of, kind of like Swarm. And this is going to fit into that perfectly because hand draw is so incredibly rare in Marvel Snap. And just increasing your odds by 1 is absolutely huge. You know, combine that with Colleen Wing as well, and we've got another great combo to help out all these different styles of combo decks. Great example, like Galactus, right? You've got Adam Warlock in that deck, even for just that 1 extra card draw. And now you can go and combine Colleen Wing and this card to guarantee that card draw. I don't know. It seems pretty solid, and this is all while boosting up cards like Morbius, and again, the downside to discard. I think this one should get a good amount of play. We move on to Snow Guard. If you haven't played this by turn 3, transform it into a random spirit animal. In my opinion, 2 of the 3 animals are pretty damn solid. You have a blue Marvel S card and Spirit Bear. It's a 5 cost, 3 power card that gives all of your cards +1 on reveal. Awesome synergy here with Wong or even Absorbing Man the next turn. Love the bear. But then you have Spirit Bird, who is like a mini Vision. It's a 3 cost, 4 power card. I think that's going to be huge for move decks and very versatile. Definitely put this in tons of different decks. And then we have Spirit Wolf, who I think is probably the weakest, I would guess, out of the bunch. It has an ongoing ability of -2 power for each other card in the lane. However, it's got awesome stat lines. Next up, we have Stature, who is a 5/7. However, it only costs 1 energy if your opponent discarded a card from their hand this game. Now, these are the cards I'm starting to love, ones that can penalize your opponent for using certain types of decks. Moon Knight and this card together, absolute money, and I love, again, these interactions of kind of going against your opponent depending on what they play. And a 1/7 is bonkers. Next up, we've got a card that I think will definitely work in move deck archetypes. From Thor himself, if you move Human Torch to his location, he's going to get +10 power, and he only costs 5. Now, yes, 5/10, definitely not bad, but you can actually get him higher by getting him out with Wave, and then you can either Moon Girl Human Torch. You can move Human Torch multiple times to the lane with things like Cloak and Iron Fist. The only thing that seems a little off here is Marvel Snap is usually like pinpoint with their synergy and lore. And unless I'm missing something with Marvel and lore with these two, do Human Torch and this guy go together at all outside of, you know, like fire? We continue with this guy, the showcase of today, the Living Tribunal. Sit down and grab a glass of water. This ability seems so crazy to me. At the end of the game, split your total power evenly across all locations. Like, this seems game-changing. He seems game-changing. Like, never mind just playing big freaking value cards like Maximus and Red Skull and all of that and then splitting it. You're going to cover locations you can't reach. You're going to cover just a wide variety of location power-wise that the opponent's going to have a tough time. But then you start thinking about like Black Panther and even Wolfsbane with Wong. These cards that get huge on one lane. and then you can just split it. Like, I don't... He seems crazy to me. Maybe I'm looking too much into this, but I don't know. This has got to be up there as a rare card, in my opinion, and super unique. And again, I think the biggest crazy factor about him is you just won't know if your opponent is running him, right? Like, in competitive play all over, I think Living Tribunal could be a massive problem, crazy card. And one that also opens up a new archetype and kind of interesting as well, giving play to Red Skull outside of 0 and things like that. All right, now we move on to a not as crazy card, but still, I think, very versatile option in Toad. On reveal, move the last card that you played to this location. He is a 2-cost 3-power card. I think I'm going to put Toad in a lot of my decks if he stays the same, because you can go and, like, put Iron Man down turn 5, and your opponent thinks that that's the lane that you're going to win, and then you move it to another lane. Or you can go ahead and just completely ramp up move cards, crossbones, maybe rescue cards that you don't want to play on that location after following up on that rescue. There's a lot of potential for Toad outside of move decks, but again, inside of move decks as well. Such a great way to ramp up these cards even faster and gives us another move option. I've seen this card before. I still can't, guys. Uncle Ben. When this card is destroyed, add Spider-Man to your hand. He's a 1-cost 2-power card. Like, first of all, the disrespect to Uncle Ben. But second of all, to make it even worse, this is a card that you're targeting to destroy pretty much no matter what. Like, outside of just getting Spider-Man, who we know is a great card, especially with like Zabu now, or just adding that control option guaranteed to your hand is solid. But then you go ahead and feed him to Carnage to guarantee that he eats and destroys and kills Uncle Ben for his benefit, or in Zoo decks as well. Second dinner. I love it. All right, we move on to Viv Vision, and it's another move card that's not as crazy. We've got a card that's going to help out Kraven, I think, a good amount by moving 2 cards at once with a follow-up with something like Iron Fist. When you move a card to a location, this card is going to move as well. It is a 2-cost 3-power card. Again, decent option. Will definitely not be worth a pool 5 unlock, in my opinion. And I think there'll be other ways to make it work, especially if we get cards like Kraven that want cards moved to it. All right, just a few more left, and this is one of my favorites. However, I do think this is our #1 contender that's going to be changed. We've got War Machine, who is, he's Khazar, but he's a 4-cost 5-power card. Now, Khazar, way back when, this is actually what he was in the beta, and then they had to change it because Zoo decks were absolutely cracked. But I like kind of where they're going with War Machine, and I think Zoo does have a place into later meta play, and I think this would help a ton. He's better than Blue Marvel if you play him with the right value, and then you combine that with Shayna, the most recent card that was released. I don't know. I think War Machine might get some play. I hope they stick to this, like, boosting up something that's weak with help, right? That's kind of like what War Machine is in general, and will be interesting. And the card art is fire. Speaking of fire, we have Witch Fire. On reveal, your opponents draw a card and increase its cost by 1. Now, this costs 2 energy and is a 3-power card, and is essentially another card for the disruption style of play. It can mess up Sarah and a couple of those other cards, but it's kind of like a worse Iceman. I don't think it'll be a bad card to add if you love the disruption archetype, but it's, I don't know. This one's not crazy to me. We got 2 left. X23. When this is discarded from your hand, put it back and it costs 0. So it is a 3/3 card, and it's the Sabertooth of discard. And honestly, I think Lockjaw, Silver Surfer discard decks aren't played enough for good reason. In some cases, it's very casino style. But if you have this card, I think it starts to really work, especially if you can find ways to multiply it, again, maybe with Moon Girl or some other options. It's 3 costs, which we know Silver Surfer loves. I think it's got some strong potential, and it won't be a bad addition to a lot of decks. And again, we just talked about MODOK. That's another card that this will work with. And I kind of wish this is what Wolverine did, but like better stat lines now that I'm looking at it. And then lastly, we end on Yo-Yo. When this card moves, move it back to the location, but give it 1 more power. Now, Move does not need another 1-cost card due to Killmonger. We already have Human Torch that just dies to that as well. But I like the interaction and ability a ton, especially like just buffing up Kraven over and over, or even Heimdall. Like, you build it up all the way to the last turn of the game, and then you move everything, and then Yo-Yo kind of takes care of that right lane that's always abandoned. I don't know. I think Yo-Yo will get some play, and I think it's quite interesting. So there you go, guys. There is every single card coming to Marvel Snap that has been data mined between the last video and this video, and I want to know from you guys, first of all, like, what interactions and combos with these cards did I miss while I kind of quickly went through them? But also, which card is by far like the most hype that will be coming to Snap? Again, like Nebula, I think is very exciting. And then Living Tribunal. There's a lot of different cards that are really going to shake up the meta. And I'm curious which one of these are going to slot into season passes. All right, that does it for all of the unreleased cards between both of the videos. Rest assured, as new data mines come, we will definitely make videos covering those. If you don't want to miss it, go ahead and subscribe to Cozy Snap today as we climb up to 60,000 subs, which is insane at the time of filming this video. Have a great one. Until the next one, happy snapping.